I was trying to save people from a burning fire in the building. And we were running outside and, we're going through the building and I'm leading them towards the exit because the building is coming down. And I know it's this feeling that we're running away from someone. I don't know who it is, but we're running away from him because that person is burning the whole place down. And I have to save these people. As we're going down the corridor, I look behind me to see who's burning down the building. And yeah, you guessed it. It was me. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Andrew Roman Show. I'm so happy that you've tuned in. Today is an intense episode, so I ain't gonna give too much intro besides, how you doing? You doing good? Awesome. If you ain't doing good, at least you're listening to the show, so hopefully by the end, you are doing better. Hey, don't forget, if you enjoyed this show, share it with somebody. Subscribe on YouTube, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. You have no idea how much that helps because the more reviews there are, the more Apple Podcasts will promote my show. So head over to Apple Podcasts. If you love it, share it. See something, say something. If you see something awesome, say something on Apple Podcasts. Well, I want to ask you a question. Have you watched Chris Pratt's new movie? It's called Tomorrow War. Have you watched it? Well, if you haven't, let me tell you a little bit about our sponsors. Cancun, win yourself a new trip up for a party of 4. Weren't you always because we're a family of 5, every single dang trip to Disney was always for 4 people. Come on, dude. And guess who was going to be left behind? I was the baby of the family. So I was always going to be left behind. You know exactly what that is. Anyways, no, I'm not sending you to Cancun, although that would be really cool. But this is the brand new mug. That's right. I got hooked up yet again to expand my mug collection. So it says beautiful Cancun here. If you haven't been to Cancun, it is absolutely stunning. I was there when I was younger, so I can remember it, but I can't fully appreciate it. So one day, hopefully, I'll be able to be there as well. If you haven't sent in your favorite mugs yet, go ahead and send them in so that way we can share them. All right, back. We're back after the commercials. So have you watched Chris Pratt's newer movie? Not saying newer movie, it's been a little bit now since it came out, but basically, if you haven't, you've had a lot of time. I'm going to spoil a lot of the movie because it has to do a lot with the episode that we're going to talk about today. Because today's episode is this: how to win tomorrow's war. That's right. So it's very much based on that movie. It's an excellent movie. I love it. Chris Pratt does an amazing job. So I'm totally plagiarizing the plot here because I'm going to use this for the episode. So go ahead and watch it first. That way you can get a little bit more. But basically, here's the theme. There's a war that's going to happen in the future, I think it's 10, 20 years in the future, something like that. And that fight is going to come. The war is going to happen. And unless we win that war, it's total destruction for all humanity. This battle will come and it will defeat them unless they do something now. So people from the future come to the present and they say, hey, we need to recruit people. So they recruit everyone from around the world and they transport them to the future to fight, tomorrow's war, basically. They fight the battle before it even happens, per se. And they go into the future to fight it. But my question is, how can you fight a battle that hasn't happened yet? Because a couple important things to know is, first, you have to understand, and at least in the movie, that battle, unless prevented, will happen. Unless you win it, it will in fact happen. It's going to happen. It's easy. It doesn't take a lot of guess. It's not a guesstimate. This battle will happen. These creatures will come at this certain date and they will take over the world. And then you also have to understand, what begun the battle? How can you win the battle? Well, you have to know what begun the battle in the first place. And what is really important in the movie is that they go from the present to the future to fight a war that's going to happen. And then if they defeat it, then they save themselves the battle. Well, I'm going to go through this episode really, the word comes in Spanish, desglosando, or unpacking. That sounds like a very preacher word, right? Now let's go ahead and unpack this. Well, let's go ahead and unpack this. What's up, man? Right now, this voice is that dude from youth group who what's up, bro? It's just so spiritual, dude. And kind of makes you know that, but at the same time, it's super humble. You know what I mean? You know that guy. You've watched him on TikTok too, where he goes up and he's like, dude, I just want to be honest with you. God put this word in me that you have to grow up. Like, don't take it from me, because to be honest, I'm super mature now in the Lord, but I was just like you, like a little baby. And I used to whine just like you spiritually, but thankfully, I've grown up. Is that type of dude. So let's unpack this episode. Bro, some of you will probably not even finish the whole episode if I were just talking like that the entire time. But let's go ahead and really dive deep. Because when I watched this movie, it really started to kind of start this idea in my mind of what are some battles that will happen in the future unless we prevent them, unless we fight them today. Because for all these people in the movie, they got transported to the future, but it was still today for them. It was still, they spent some days, and for them, it was still like the present, even though they were in the future. And it started to kind of make me think. You see, all of us are going to face things. Life seems so random at first. We use this word, right? Life throws at you a lot of curveballs per se. And there are things that are not controllable necessarily. There are things that no one saw coming, a sickness, someone fired you from a job, a layback, somehow no one saw coming, right? But there are a lot of fights in our lives that burden us and will happen in the future that, like this movie, you can fight them today. You can, in fact, win tomorrow's war. And we're going to just unpack this idea, bro, of what it means to truly beat tomorrow's war. Because there is this notion, especially among the younger generation like myself, that choices are inconsequential. Meaning, bro, you're 13, you're 15, it doesn't really matter what you do. Like, just take life seriously when you're older. Take life seriously when you're married. Take life seriously when you're over in your 30s. Take life seriously definitely when you're in your 40s. But right now, dude, don't even worry about it. Right now, there's always a reason not to take things seriously, and we think they're inconsequential. Well, yeah, whether you eat a burger or a burger, they're the same thing. A burger or a hot dog, I guess that's inconsequential. Both, depends where you get them from. Probably not the best for you, but that's okay. But then there's deeper things that are very much consequential, that who you marry, that's huge. And the friends you hang out around with, that's pretty big. And based on choices that we make, there are things that are pretty easy to determine what's going to happen in the end result. So there's going to be wars that if we do not fight them today, they in fact will happen in the future, and they will win. They will beat us. They will come out with the upper hand. What do I mean? Well, first we have to understand that the past speaks to the future. So what do I mean by that? Is a lot of times to understand what's going to happen in the future, you have to look into the past. Because there are things like, let's talk about one. Let's talk about addictions. So in addictions, all addictions end up the same way. If you don't break them, they will break you. Congratulations. That's how every addiction works. Every person that's addicted says, well, not me. Sure, drugs have messed up a lot of people, but I'm the exception. I'm the exception. I only do it every so often. I have it under control, dude. Don't worry about it, bro. I got it under control. Yeah, said everybody who's now addicted to them, right? And there are things in our lives that unless we fight them now, it will be a war. If you become addicted to drugs or addicted to pornography or addicted to alcohol, addicted to something, you're not the exception to the rule. It will happen. A war will happen in the future that will in fact destroy you. It sounds dramatic, maybe so, but it's the truth. Let's take pornography for as an example. Maybe you're a dude or a girl that struggles with pornography and you feel, you got it under control. It's okay. Or, well, it's fine now, but when I get married, it'll go away. That kind of lust and stuff, I guess I have a wife for that. I have a husband for that. It'll go away. Yeah, okay, sure. Sure thing. And if maybe you're the exception, but guess what? No, you're not. I'm not the exception. See, I had to kind of get that out of my head because there was a time when I struggled a lot with pornography and God had to free me from that. But there was a thought with me saying, it's all right, I got it under control, it's not that much. And at the end of the day, when I get older, it kind of goes away. When I get older, when I get married, everything's going to be fine. When I get married, that little hole, it's going to be filled, totally fine. But that war will in fact come. In 10, 15 years, if you do not deal with that addiction, it will destroy you. And to continue with the war analogy, there will be casualties. That's exactly how it works. No matter who you are, whether you're a successful entrepreneur, whether you're a high school kid, whether you're a dad or a mom and you've been married 50 years, it doesn't matter who you are. Pornography, as the example, is not a respecter of persons. You can be married and then all of a sudden get divorced, and that's how infidelity happens. That's how broken relationships happen. Because you believe you're the exception, but you're not. There will be tomorrow's war. There will be a war that will happen unless you fight it today. Let's talk about some other things that happen. Addictions are one. Debt is something else. We get ourselves in debt and we say, it's all right, I can handle it. I can get this credit card, that 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 car, that phone, those clothes on payment plans. Oh, no, it's fine. I got it all figured out. So I got these payment plans for this card, and I got this new card because that's some payment plans, but the payment plans are only like, $80 a month, so it's not that bad. Oh, and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and everything is fine. But unless you fight that war today, unless you deal with that and become structured in your finances, congratulations, there will be a war in 10, 15 years, 5 years, 3 years, tomorrow, as the analogy goes, there will be a war. There will be a moment that's going to challenge you. And unless you deal with it today, it will in fact overcome you. This is a challenging episode. I get it, because no one wants to hear that there are things in life that can, in fact, defeat you if you do not deal with them. Even as a Christian, you have overcome all things, but you can still live a defeated Christian life unless you understand that you have overcome all things, meaning you have overcome them. And it's not that you will overcome them. No, you have overcome them because you overcome them today, not by your own strength, but by what Jesus did on the cross. So debt, addictions, substance abuse. How about this? Dealing with your baggage today. Let's talk about relationships or just about you and your character. You've maybe seen this play out. Maybe this is your case. Maybe you're dating in a relationship and, maybe your boyfriend's a really nice dude, but maybe around family, he's got a little bit of an attitude problem. Or maybe you got an attitude problem. I don't know, but let's just not, I'm not pointing any fingers, dude. I'm not. So let's just say, Fulanito over here, random Jim, you're dating him. He's super nice. He treats you so nicely, but he also kind of has an attitude problem. But it's only with his family, right? It's only with his brother or his sister or his mom. But other than that, he's pretty good. And you think, you know what? I know, but that's not him. That's not gonna really bother us at all. Yeah, he has pretty anger issues and he is super, super mad. But it's really with his brother. He treats me so nicely. It's fine. Yeah, guess what? Tomorrow war, it's going to happen. Because if this more serious that relationship happens, guess what happens? If he has anger issues with those who are closest, the more serious you get, the closer you get. And you guessed it, at some point you will be the closest person to him. So who's going to feel the front blow of those issues? You are. But we try to convince ourselves that somehow it's going to be different, that somehow we're the exception, that somehow it doesn't matter if our friends, or it doesn't matter if we deal with our anger issues now, somehow they will be resolved and they will get resolved later on. Everything's going to be okay, we tell ourselves. However, as the movie so beautifully portrays, and it can be applied to life, there will in fact be a tomorrow war unless you deal with it today. And it's interesting because in the movie, there are people from the future that learn how to go to the past to warn, the past, say, hey guys, this is going to happen. We need your help now. Well, the word of God, and when you learn history, you understand the same thing, that it doesn't take 2 + 2 or a genius in math to understand that it equals 4. It don't. Let's see. If I have a guitar pick here, but I got 1 guitar pick, 2 guitar picks. If I had 2 more guitar picks, how many do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. Yay, you're a genius at math. 2 + 2 always equals 4? Yeah, it does. That's right. So what other mathematical equations can we deal with that? Anger issues? Yeah, guess what that's going to equal? Problems in your marriage, problems in your relationship. You're addicted to pornography? Guess what's that's going to equal? Broken relationships, broken marriage, broken self-esteem, broken identity. That's going to happen. So I don't say that in any way like, congratulations, look at what you're getting yourself into. No. This is a reminder to myself of reflecting and saying, what are things in me today, in my life today, that will be a war in the future? Maybe it's a bad habit. Maybe it's a friendship. Maybe it's people you're circling yourself around. Maybe it are habits that you've started and that are not too bad right now, but the more they accumulate, the worse it gets. Maybe it's as simple as eating right and becoming healthy. It's one little junk food there, one little junk food there. But if your whole diet is little junk food and just a bunch of fat, there will be a war later on where you're going to have to deal with your health. Life, in many ways, is unpredictable, but in so many other ways is very predictable. Because as the thinker in Ecclesiastes says, there's nothing new under the sun. Addictions, substance abuse, they all end the same, with a broken person. That's right. So how do we win tomorrow's war? Well, first of all, as we said previously, is you have to understand that unless prevented, it will happen. Look, I can't say how many stories, how many people I know that they're completely broken in their identity. They're broken in their marriages. They're broken in their relationships. They're broken in who they are. They're broken in their life for things that were avoidable. Things that if you only had dealt with them before, it would have worked. You would have been better if only you had brought them to God and let Him restore you instead of thinking it's not a problem. It will, in fact, be there. And you have to understand what began the battle in the first place. And in the movie, again here, spoiler alert, they notice that these creatures, what seemed to come out of nowhere, in fact did not come out of nowhere. They had been there all along. They had been there, they were just sleeping. They were frozen. And as time went by and the unfreeze happened, then they woke up. Oh my gosh, can you preach on this or what? How many things in our lives, bad attitudes, bad relationships, it's taking time bomb. It's frozen, but one day it will come back and it will live. As Andy Mineo once said in his song, because when you bury emotions, you bury them alive. They only come back stronger somewhere later in your life. What seems to come out of nowhere was there all along. Maybe you blew up on someone and you had this terrible and you yelled at them and all that and it seemed to come out of nowhere. Did it though? Or were there things in your heart that were there all along? And what's incredible here is that this is not singling one person. It's not one person that has to fight tomorrow's war. In fact, the movie, everybody, it wasn't a choice. You were drafted in. Teachers, doctors, psychologists, atheists, Christians, whoever. Every person is going to fight tomorrow's war. Well, at least they have the choice to. But every person has the choice to decide what to do with today that I can prevent the war from happening in the future. So I hope that this episode has encouraged you, and I hope that it has challenged you, because life is very much predictable. And I was talking to a really good friend of mine about this idea. He brought up a good point. A lot of times, life throws at us some terrible things. You know, I mean, like he said, someone's always going to get sick at the wrong time. The car's going to break down at the wrong time. The AC is going to go out at the wrong time. Something's always going to happen at the wrong time. But when you deal with the preventable, when you deal with the controllable things, then the things that are uncontrollable aren't that overwhelming. Because the AC broke down and that came out of nowhere. You know, no one really knew it, or someone got sick out of nowhere, and maybe that wasn't very much preventable, or at least it seems like it. But you have all this baggage that you've been carrying, all these problems that you've been carrying that have been preventable, but because you got them and now you have the thing that came out of nowhere, now you're completely overwhelmed. Now life is you can't even deal with life now. The good news, though, is that you can, in fact, win tomorrow's war. I love this. Joshua 10, verse 8, the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid of them, talking about Jericho. I have given them into your hand. None of them will be able to withstand you. Don't you love this? God has given the enemy and your problem into your hand, not because you're some great warrior, okay, by yourself. You ain't. I'm not. But God is, in fact, and he works through us. So he has given you victory. We did an episode about this early on in the show, that you, in fact, have the victory over tomorrow's war. There's a great book called Extreme Ownership that I encourage you to read by Jocko Willink, a retired now Navy SEAL, talking about what it means to take extreme ownership over your life. And when you do, when you create discipline in your life, when you fight tomorrow's war today, you actually live in freedom. And he has this famous saying called discipline equals freedom. So think about your life. What are things that, in fact, are there now that are just frozen, but given time, they're going to wake up, per se, without sounding too thriller over here. They're going to affect your life. It's a ticking time bomb. An attitude, a relationship, a debt, an addiction. Man, there's just so many things. But I pray that the Holy Spirit will reveal that, whatever it is to you in your life. I'll wrap the episode with a kind of a personal thing that I've shared with this in the show. I used to have a lot of anger issues as a kid. Now, let me kind of give some context. Really, really happy kid until maybe about, my parents could tell you better, but I think it was like maybe 12, 13, 11. And although I was happy with others, especially with my relationship with Chris, it was really, really bad. Or at least I remember it that way. I mean, I could barely stand him. I would always disrespect him, and a little bit of vice versa, will I say. But the problem is I had real anger issues against like Chris, and if my parents told me something, it's not like I was this horrible kid. Maybe I was, and I just had no idea. But I had serious issues with anger. And after God kind of dealt with some unforgiveness in my heart, I had this dream. I had a dream that I was trying to save people from a burning fire in the building. And we were running outside, and we're going through the building, and I'm leading them towards the exit because the building is coming down and it was on fire. And I know it's this feeling that we're running away from someone. I don't know who it is, but we're running away from him because that person is burning the whole place down, and I have to save these people. And as we're going down the corridor, I looked behind me to see who's burning down the building. And yeah, you guessed it. It was me. I saw myself burning down the building. And I woke up and I asked God, what does this mean? And I heard so clearly, if you do not deal with your anger, it's going to burn down the building. It's going to hurt those that you love. That guy burning down everything is your unchecked anger. It's your unchecked heart. Is that bitterness, whatever it is, that it's not supposed to be there. And I repented. And honestly, look, I still get moody. Absolutely. If you know me, you know I get moody sometimes too and everything. But I cannot tell you, I feel like I'm a completely different person than who I was. And God set me free. So you can, in fact, win tomorrow's war if you fight it today. So go fight today. We'll see you in the next episode of The Andrew Roman Show.